My beloved child, stop for just a moment, because there is something about this moment that you were not expecting to hear. You may have opened this message casually, but what if the words you are about to hear speak directly to the season you have been living through? Don't skip, because the first revelation is not about what you lost, it is about what your heart has been quietly preparing to receive. There were moments when you wondered why certain doors stayed closed, why certain answers refused to arrive, and why your path seemed slower than everyone else's. But perhaps the delay was not the end of your story. Perhaps it was preparation. Archangel Michael's message for you today is simple but powerful: do not mistake silence for absence, and do not mistake waiting for rejection. Something huge is waiting for you, but before you recognize it, you must understand what has been happening beneath the surface of your life. And here is where this message becomes personal. There is a reason you have recently felt that something needs to change, even if you cannot explain exactly what it is. A part of you has become tired of repeating the same emotional cycle, carrying the same questions, and looking for certainty in places that never gave you peace. You are beginning to recognize that some chapters were never meant to follow you into the next season. That realization may feel strange because sometimes growth does not arrive with celebration, it arrives as clarity. Suddenly, what once impressed you no longer satisfies you. What once felt impossible to release becomes easier to place in God's hands. And that shift matters. Stay till the end, because the final part of this message reveals the one thing you must stop doing if you want to recognize the new direction opening before you. Do not rush past this moment. Listen carefully, because the next realization may explain why your heart has been feeling different lately. There is one more thing you need to hear before this message moves forward: you do not need to have every answer today. You do not need to force the future into existence. You do not need to chase what is meant to unfold with peace. Archangel Michael's message is calling you back to courage, discernment, faith, and inner strength, not panic, pressure, or confusion. Something huge may be developing in your life, but your responsibility is not to predict every detail, it is to remain ready for the right direction when clarity arrives. So breathe, slow down, and listen closely. The next part will go deeper into the hidden lesson behind this season and why what looked like a setback may actually have been redirecting you towards something far more meaningful. Don't skip now. You have already reached the beginning of the message, and what comes next may change the way you look at everything that happened before this moment. Something has been changing inside you, even if nobody around you has noticed it yet. You are becoming less willing to settle for half-hearted answers, temporary attention, or situations that constantly leave you questioning your worth. And this is where Archangel Michael's message becomes even deeper. Sometimes the greatest breakthrough begins when you finally stop trying to control what was never yours to control. You may have spent months wondering why something did not happen when you expected it to happen, but there is another perspective you need to consider. What if the delay gave you time to become stronger? What if the closed door protected your focus? What if the silence gave you space to hear your own heart again? Stay till the end, because there is a specific realization coming later that could connect several pieces of your story at once. Don't skip, because the moment you understand this, you may realize that your journey has not been as random as it seemed. Now listen carefully, because this is where the message turns towards something surprisingly personal. You have probably noticed that your priorities are shifting. Things you once chased may no longer feel important. Conversations that once consumed your thoughts may no longer have the same power over you. You are learning to value peace over proving yourself, clarity over confusion, and purpose over temporary validation. That is not weakness. That is maturity. And sometimes the most powerful sign that you are moving forward is not that everything suddenly changes around you, it is that you stop allowing everything around you to control what happens within you. If this message is speaking to something you have been experiencing, stay with it, because the next revelation goes even deeper. There is a difference between waiting for something to happen and becoming prepared for what comes next. One keeps you looking at the clock. The other changes who you are while you wait. And perhaps that is exactly what this season has been doing. So don't scroll away now, because the message ahead is not about looking backward, it is about recognizing the new version of yourself that has been quietly forming. Something huge is waiting for you, but it may not arrive in the form you imagined. It may begin with one unexpected realization, one conversation, one opportunity, one decision, or one sudden moment of clarity that makes you say, "Now I understand why I had to wait." And when that moment comes, you will need discernment more than excitement. You will need patience more than urgency. Stay till the end, because there is still another layer to this message, and it may reveal why the next chapter requires a completely different version of you. Now comes the part you may not have expected, because the greatest shift may not happen outside you first, it may happen within you. There is a moment in life when you suddenly realize that you are no longer the same person who once begged for clarity, chased approval, or held on to situations simply because you were afraid of what would happen after letting go. That moment can be quiet, but it can change everything. Archangel Michael's message today is reminding you to recognize that transformation. Something huge may be waiting ahead, but you cannot carry every old expectation into a new chapter and still see clearly. Don't skip this part, because there is a deeper reason your perspective has been changing. You are learning that not every unanswered question deserves another night of overthinking. Not every silence requires you to create an explanation. Not every delay means something has gone wrong. Sometimes your greatest strength is simply knowing when to pause, breathe, and trust the next step instead of demanding the entire path at once. Think about the moments you thought were taking you backward. You are approaching a point where you must stop measuring your future by what did not happen in your past. Stay till the end, because there is a revelation ahead about what happens when you stop forcing an outcome and start recognizing the signs of genuine alignment. You may discover that the thing you were desperately trying to hold onto was never the only possibility available to you. There can be a better direction, a healthier connection, a clearer purpose, or an opportunity you simply could not see while your attention was fixed on one specific outcome. And listen to this carefully, you are not being asked to become someone completely different. You are being invited to become more honest about who you already are becoming. The stronger version of you does not need to announce every decision. The wiser version does not explain every boundary. The calmer version does not chase every answer. The focused version knows that some things deserve patience because rushing can make you overlook what matters most. Something huge is waiting for you, but perhaps the first part of that huge change is learning to recognize peace when it arrives. So stay here. Don't skip. Because the next message is going to move beyond what you have been waiting for and into what you may soon need to choose. And that choice could become the turning point that makes everything you have been learning finally make sense. There is a moment coming when you may finally understand why this season required so much patience. Not because everything suddenly becomes perfect, but because something inside your perspective becomes clear. You begin to see that what you once considered a delay may have been creating space for a better decision, a healthier direction, or a more meaningful opportunity. Archangel Michael's message for you today is not asking you to chase signs or force outcomes. It is asking you to become attentive. Pay attention to what brings genuine peace. Pay attention to what repeatedly pulls you toward growth. Pay attention to the opportunities that appear naturally instead of requiring you to abandon your values just to keep them alive. Stay till the end, because the most important revelation is still ahead. Don't skip now, because the next realization may help you recognize the difference between something that simply looks exciting and something that truly belongs in your future. And there is another layer to this that you need to understand. You may soon find yourself standing between the familiar and the unknown. The familiar may feel comfortable simply because you already understand it, even when it no longer fits who you are becoming. The unknown may feel uncomfortable because you cannot guarantee the outcome. But growth often asks you to make decisions without possessing every detail. This does not mean acting recklessly. It means allowing wisdom, patience, prayer, and discernment to guide you instead of allowing temporary emotions to make every decision for you. If this message is resonating with your current season, stay with me. Something huge is waiting for you, but it may begin with a choice that looks very ordinary from the outside. You might choose peace instead of an argument. You might choose preparation instead of rushing. You might finally stop explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Or you might recognize an opportunity that you would have ignored months ago because you were still attached to an older version of your life. So before you move forward, remember this. You do not need to prove that you are ready. Your growth will speak through your choices. Let your actions become quieter and your discernment stronger. Let your heart become less dependent on immediate answers and more grounded in what you know is right. Share this message with someone who may need encouragement today, and if you want more messages like this, stay connected to this channel, but most importantly, keep listening. The next part is where this message becomes even more revealing, because we are going to uncover what you should watch for when the new direction begins appearing in your life. Stay till the end. Don't skip. You may have been waiting for a dramatic sign, when the real turning point could arrive through something so simple that you almost overlook it. Here is what you need to understand now: the next chapter may not announce itself with a dramatic moment. It may begin quietly, almost invisibly, through a decision you make when nobody is watching. You may suddenly feel less attached to an old expectation, more confident about a choice, or strangely peaceful about something that once kept you awake at night. That shift matters. Archangel Michael's message today is about recognizing the difference between chasing something and being genuinely prepared to receive what is right for you. Don't skip, because this is where many people miss the very thing they have been praying and hoping for. They become so focused on how they imagined the answer would arrive that they fail to recognize it when it comes in a completely different form. Something huge is waiting for you, but your next breakthrough may begin with clarity rather than excitement, with peace rather than urgency, and with one small decision that quietly changes the direction of everything that follows. You may also notice that certain things no longer have the same emotional power over you. A conversation that once would have consumed your entire day may now simply teach you something and pass. A disappointment that once felt like the end may now feel like redirection. A person you once needed answers from may no longer have control over your peace. This is not about becoming cold or disconnected. It is about becoming grounded. You are learning that your future cannot depend entirely on someone else's timing, someone else's approval, or someone else's ability to recognize your value. And that realization can become one of the most powerful turning points of your life. Stay till the end, because there is still a deeper revelation coming about the opportunity that can appear when you stop forcing what refuses to align. Listen carefully. Sometimes the door you keep trying to push open is not the door you were meant to enter. Sometimes your next step begins when you finally turn around and notice another path you were too distracted to see. So today, keep your eyes open without becoming obsessed with searching for signs. Keep your heart hopeful without attaching your peace to one specific outcome. Keep moving without believing you must know exactly where every step will lead. Archangel Michael's message is a reminder to walk with courage and discernment, because your future deserves more than decisions made from impatience. Don't skip now. Stay till the end, because what comes next will bring this message closer to the part of your life you may have been quietly questioning, the place where hope, timing, and personal transformation meet. And when you understand that final connection, you may look back at this season differently. What felt like nothing happening may have actually been the moment when you were becoming ready for something you could not yet recognize. My beloved child, there is a quiet realization waiting for you now, and it may be more powerful than anything dramatic could ever be. You have been looking for the answer in what is happening around you, but the answer may first appear in what is happening within you. Notice how your heart responds differently now. What once made you anxious may no longer control your thoughts. What once felt impossible to release may suddenly feel lighter. What once seemed like the only path may no longer look so important. This is not meaningless. It can be a sign that your perspective is changing. Archangel Michael's message today is calling you to stop measuring your progress only by visible results. Some of the most important changes begin before anyone else can see them. Don't skip, because there is something deeper ahead. Something huge is waiting for you, but you may first need to recognize that you are already becoming the person capable of handling what comes next. The chapter ahead does not require the old version of you. It requires the version who has learned patience, discernment, courage, and the ability to move forward without needing every answer immediately. And here is the surprising part: the thing you thought you needed may not be the thing that finally gives you peace. Perhaps you wanted one particular answer, one particular person, one particular opportunity, or one particular outcome. You imagined that once it happened, everything would finally make sense. But life has a way of revealing that peace cannot always depend on receiving exactly what we imagined. Sometimes the greater gift is realizing that your future is bigger than one outcome. You can still hope. You can still believe. You can still desire something deeply. But you do not have to make your entire identity depend upon it. Stay till the end, because the final realization is going to bring this entire message together. There may come a moment when something you once considered impossible suddenly feels possible, not because someone promised it, but because you have grown enough to recognize a healthier direction when it appears. And when that moment arrives, do not rush simply because you are excited. Pause. Listen. Think. Let wisdom lead before emotion takes over. Now take one more breath and remember what this entire message has been preparing you to understand. You are not required. Your responsibility is to remain attentive to the direction that brings clarity, growth, and alignment with the values you know matter. Archangel Michael's message is not about predicting every detail of your future, it is about strengthening you for the choices ahead. So stay till the end, because there is still one final piece you need to hear. Don't skip now. The biggest revelation may not be about something arriving from outside your life at all. It may be about the moment you finally realize that you have already changed, and because you have changed, the things you accept, the choices you make, and the future you are willing to build can change too. There is a reason this message feels different now, because you have reached the point where waiting is no longer the main story. The real story is what you have learned while you were waiting. You have discovered that your peace cannot depend on perfect circumstances, that your worth does not rise and fall with someone else's attention, and that your future cannot be measured by one disappointing chapter. Archangel Michael's message for you today is a call to stand firmly in the person you are becoming. Something huge may be unfolding, but you do not need to chase it with desperation. Let it meet you while you are walking with wisdom. Don't skip, because the next realization may explain why some things had to become quieter before you could hear what truly mattered. Sometimes clarity arrives after the noise fades. Sometimes the answer becomes visible only after you stop staring at the door that never opened. And now, think about one thing you have been carrying privately. Maybe it is a question you rarely speak about. Maybe it is a dream you almost stopped believing in. Maybe it is a relationship, a decision, or a future you cannot completely picture yet. Whatever it is, do not allow uncertainty to convince you that nothing is happening. There is a difference between not seeing the next step and having no next step. You may not know how everything will unfold, but you can still choose what kind of person you will be while it unfolds. Stay till the end, because this is where the message becomes more personal. The greatest revelation may be that your next chapter does not begin when every problem disappears. It begins when you stop allowing every problem to define your identity. You can carry unanswered questions and still have peace. You can experience change and still remain grounded. You can move forward without having a perfect map. So when the unexpected opportunity appears, when the conversation finally happens, when a new direction becomes available, or when you suddenly recognize an option you could not see before, remember what you learned here. Do not immediately assume that every exciting thing is meant for you. Discern it. Do not reject every unfamiliar thing simply because it feels uncomfortable. Examine it. Do not run back toward what is familiar simply because the future requires courage. Think carefully. Something huge is waiting for you, but the real gift may be the wisdom to recognize it without losing yourself in the process. Stay till the end. Don't skip this final stretch, because the next message will reveal the one internal shift that can change the way you approach everything ahead, and once you understand it, you may realize that the season you thought was holding you back was quietly teaching you how to move forward. Listen closely, because this is where everything begins to connect. The moments you thought were random may have been teaching you a pattern. You were being pushed to become more discerning about what deserves your energy, your attention, and your heart. Archangel Michael's message today is not asking you to predict the future, it is reminding you to walk into it with courage and wisdom. You have already learned what happens when you ignore your inner peace just to keep something alive. You have learned what happens when you chase answers from places that only create more questions. And now you are entering a different mindset. Don't skip, because the next realization may be the one that finally helps you understand why you had to outgrow certain expectations. Something huge is waiting for you, but it may begin with a simple decision. Stop asking, "Why is this taking so long?" and start asking, "What is this season teaching me?" That one change in perspective can transform the way you see your entire journey. There may be something you are still tempted to revisit simply because it is familiar. A memory. An old expectation. A conversation you wish had gone differently. A version of your future that you once imagined with complete certainty. But listen carefully, remembering something does not mean you are supposed to return to it. Missing something does not automatically mean it belongs in your future. And wondering what could have been does not mean you must keep living inside that question. Sometimes closure is not a dramatic conversation. Sometimes closure is the quiet moment when you realize you no longer need the answer to move forward. Stay till the end, because this is important. When you stop demanding that the past explain itself, you create room for the present to reveal what it has been offering you all along. You may begin noticing opportunities, connections, ideas, and possibilities that were always nearby but were hidden behind emotional noise. And now comes the shift. Instead of waiting for life to prove that you are on the right path, begin making choices that are consistent with the person you want to become. Choose patience when urgency tries to control you. Choose honesty when pretending would be easier. Choose peace when unnecessary conflict offers temporary satisfaction. Choose preparation when you feel tempted to rush. This is where your strength becomes visible, not through dramatic words, but through quiet decisions repeated every day. Something huge is waiting for you, but perhaps the biggest surprise is that you are becoming ready for it without even realizing it. Stay till the end. Don't skip now, because the final message will bring you to the most important question of all. When the next door finally appears, will you recognize it as an opportunity for growth, or will you judge it only by whether it looks exactly like what you once asked for? Your answer may determine how confidently you step into what comes next. My beloved child, you have reached the moment where the message becomes less about what you have been waiting for and more about what you are finally ready to recognize. There is a difference between receiving an answer and becoming capable of understanding it. Sometimes the answer arrives quietly because your attention has been trained to expect something dramatic. But what if the most important change begins with a thought that suddenly feels different? What if you wake up one morning and realize you no longer need to chase the same explanation? What if you discover that peace has replaced the urgency that once controlled you? Don't skip, because this matters more than it may seem. Something huge is waiting for you, but it may not look like a spectacular event. It may look like clarity. It may look like a decision. It may look like realizing that your next chapter deserves a different standard than your last one. And once you understand that, you stop asking whether you are losing something and start asking whether you are finally making room for something healthier. There is also something you need to release from your thinking, the belief that every delay means you are falling behind. You are not running the same race as everyone else. Their timing cannot become the measurement of your life. You may see someone else receiving what you wanted first, moving ahead faster, finding answers sooner, or appearing more certain about their direction. But appearances never tell the complete story. Your responsibility is not to compete with someone else's timeline. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the values, wisdom, and purpose you are building within yourself. Stay till the end, because the final revelation will bring this entire journey into focus. The season that felt slow may have been teaching you something that speed never could, how to recognize what deserves your commitment. You are becoming more selective with your energy, more careful with your trust, and more willing to walk away from anything that repeatedly demands that you abandon your peace just to keep it. And now imagine this: one day, you look back at the version of yourself who was desperately trying to make everything happen, and you realize that person was doing the best they could with the understanding they had at the time. Do not judge that version of yourself. Honor it. That person carried you here. But you do not have to keep living from the same fears, habits, or expectations. The next chapter can be different because you can choose differently. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because the final part is not about promising you a perfect future. It is about something far more valuable, learning how to walk into uncertainty without abandoning your hope. Something huge is waiting for you. Not necessarily because every detail has already been decided, but because your life still contains possibilities you cannot see from where you are standing today. And the moment you stop demanding that the future look exactly like the picture in your mind, you may finally become free enough to recognize the beautiful possibilities that were never in that picture at all. My beloved child, you have arrived at the moment where the message becomes clear. You were never meant to spend your entire life waiting for one perfect sign, one perfect answer, or one perfect moment. The greatest revelation is that your next chapter begins with the choices you make now. Archangel Michael's message is a reminder to move forward with courage, wisdom, patience, and faith in God's guidance. Look at everything you have already survived, everything you have learned, and every version of yourself you have outgrown. There were moments you thought you were losing time, but perhaps you were gaining discernment. There were moments you thought nothing was changing, but perhaps your foundation was becoming stronger. Don't skip this final message, because something huge is waiting for you, but the most meaningful part may be your ability to recognize it without compromising your peace. You do not need to force the future. You do not need to chase every possibility. You simply need to remain awake to the opportunities, relationships, ideas, and directions that align with the person you are becoming. So when you leave this message, carry one thought with you: do not allow yesterday to become the ruler of tomorrow. If something ended, learn from it. If something changed, adapt with wisdom. If something is still uncertain, give yourself permission to keep moving while the answer becomes clearer. And if an unexpected door appears, do not immediately judge it by how closely it resembles the door you were hoping for. Pause. Observe. Pray. Think. Let discernment speak louder than excitement. Archangel Michael represents courage and protection in Christian tradition, and this message can be received as an invitation to cultivate those qualities within your own life. Courage to make healthy choices, protection of your peace and values, and strength to continue when the path is not completely visible. Stay till the end, because this is the part you should remember when doubt returns. Your life is not defined by one delay, one disappointment, one unanswered question, or one chapter that did not unfold as expected. Your story is still moving. Your possibilities are still alive. And your next meaningful step may be closer than you think. Now take a slow breath and let the pressure to figure everything out disappear for a moment. You have heard the message. You have reflected on the waiting, the changing perspective, the unexpected possibilities, and the strength you have developed along the way. The final revelation is simple: sometimes the miracle is not that everything suddenly changes around you, sometimes it is that you become strong enough, wise enough, and peaceful enough to respond differently when life changes. That is where your power begins. Don't skip the lesson simply because the video is ending. Take it with you. Something huge may be waiting in your future, but you do not need to live anxiously searching for it. Walk forward. Keep your heart open. Protect your peace. Choose wisely. Trust God with what you cannot control, and give your best to what you can. The chapter ahead does not need to be perfect to be meaningful. It only needs to be approached with courage, clarity, and faith. And perhaps one day soon, when you look back at this exact season, you will understand why you had to become the person you are becoming now. My beloved child, there is still one final layer to this message, because sometimes the deepest revelation arrives after you think the story is already complete. You may believe you are waiting for something outside yourself to change, but perhaps the real transformation is already happening within you. You are learning to recognize peace without needing everything to be perfect. You are learning to release what repeatedly pulls you backward. You are learning to protect your attention, your time, and your heart from anything that constantly makes you question your own worth. Archangel Michael's message today is a reminder that courage is not always loud. Sometimes courage is simply waking up and choosing to move forward again. Don't skip, because there is something you need to understand about the next season of your life. Something huge may be waiting ahead, but you will recognize it differently because you are no longer the same person who began this journey. Think about the things you once believed you could never live without. Some of them may already have lost their grip on you. And perhaps you did not even notice when it happened. One day you simply realized that the memory no longer carried the same weight. The unanswered question no longer demanded your attention. The old expectation no longer controlled your mood. That is growth. It does not always arrive with applause or a dramatic announcement. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet morning when you realize your heart is finally breathing differently. Stay till the end, because this is where the message reaches its deepest point. You do not have to keep reopening yesterday just because you have not fully understood why it happened. Some chapters teach you through experience rather than explanation. Some lessons become clear only after you have walked far enough away to see the entire picture. And when the next opportunity comes, remember what this season taught you. Do not confuse intensity with importance. Do not confuse attention with genuine connection. Do not confuse speed with progress. And do not confuse uncertainty with failure. Give yourself permission to examine what comes next with a calm heart. If it requires you to abandon your values, pause. If it encourages growth, examine it. If it brings peace without demanding that you become someone you are not, appreciate it. Something huge is waiting for you, but you may discover that the greatest gift is not receiving everything you once asked for, it is becoming wise enough to recognize what truly deserves a place in your future. Stay till the end, because there is one last truth you should carry with you. You are allowed to move forward without having every answer. You are allowed to hope again. You are allowed to believe that your story can contain beautiful chapters you cannot yet see. And when that new chapter begins, remember this moment, not because someone promised you a specific outcome, but because you chose to keep walking with courage, faith, patience, and a heart open to what God may place before you.